Hi there. Welcome to a new episode of Branding with Friends, the show where branding meets key service-based business topics. Here you're going to learn tips straight from the experts on everything from LinkedIn to authentic marketing to even accounting. We focus on what you can do right now to use these topics plus the power of branding to attract your ideal clients. I'm your host, branding expert Annie Franceschi of Greatest Story Creative. I help service business owners tell their story and show their value through clear messaging and consistent branding. I'm also a former Disney storyteller, a professional speaker, and the author of the best-selling book, Permission to Try. And today, I am so excited to introduce you to one of my new friends in the business world. If you have been wanting to grow your practice with ease and avoid that big B of burnout, you are going to love today's episode. My guest today is the awesome Maegan Megginson. Maegan is a business coach, licensed therapist, group practice owner, and self-diagnosed business building addict. She helps overwhelmed service providers create unique, burnout-proof businesses that honor their needs and bankroll their lifestyle. Who doesn't want that? As an ambitious introvert and a highly sensitive person, Maegan is intimately familiar with the struggle that arises when your energetic limitations conflict with your desire to build the business that you know you're capable of creating. She is passionate about helping other sensitive entrepreneurs create businesses that make tons of cash without sacrificing their sanity. Oh, I'm so glad you are here. Thank you so much for joining us, Maegan.
Yeah, Annie, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and we recently met through another Branding with Friends guest, the very first, Drea Jones, who runs Online Drea and is a social media expert. And we just hit it
That's
off a
right.
few months ago. And as soon as I heard that you help build burnout-proof businesses, I was like, you've got to come on Branding with Friends and talk about this. So
It's
I'm so
my favorite topic.
Well, and I also love that in your bio, it says, you say you are a licensed therapist, and that's not, a cleverness thing. It's that's part of what you do. And I know
Yeah.
how you got into this, but that's a useful skill set as a business coach, I'm sure, to
It's
have
a
actually be a trained therapist.
extremely useful. When I became a licensed therapist over 10 years ago, I didn't anticipate that I would ever become a business coach, but now that I'm here and I look back on the trajectory of my career so far, it feels so incredibly purposeful because I do feel like my 10 years of boots on the ground work in the psychotherapy space has given me a very unique lens through which I view my work with my business coaching clients. And yeah, like finding the way that these two pieces fit together is really thrilling to me.
It is so awesome. I often joke that I feel like I'm a counselor half the time, and you actually are one. So
I
that's such a
actually am.
powerful
Yeah.
skill set. There are a lot of coaches, consultants watching this going, yes, that would be
Yes.
so helpful. But I'm so glad you're here, and this unique topic of building a burnout proof business. I think we all want one of those. And I wanted you to come on and share what are those 3 things that someone could do to move the needle, to get closer to having a burnout proof business. If they feel like they're burning out, if you feel like you're struggling growing as a coach or consultant, that's what Maegan's here to share with us today. If you've never watched an episode of Branding with Friends, I'll just go ahead and tell you, we're going to share 3 tips today. She's got 3 awesome tips and something special just for you. We're going to share that 3rd tip right at the end. So make sure to listen all the way through to make sure you get as much value from Maegan as you can. And she has brought a ton. And you may not realize how much branding has to do with having a burnout proof business, but there, secret answer C, as you listen to Branding with Friends, it absolutely does. So before we
Absolutely.
jump into that first tip, Maegan, just tell me a little bit more about how you stumbled. I love that, you've woven in so much of your own style of being an introvert and making space in your own business to have a burnout proof business. Tell me a little bit more about how you got into business coaching.
Yeah, sure. Well, so like I said, I've been a therapist for 10 plus years, and I learned early in my career as a therapist that I really loved the business building side of being a therapist. I was in private practice early. I did that for several years, and then I expanded into the group practice model where I still have my group practice. I'm here right now, the Center for Couples and Sex Therapy in Portland, Oregon. We're a 7-figure group practice, and it's beautiful. I love it. But what I discovered was I kind of maxed out how much business building, growth I could achieve as a therapist, but I was hungry for more. But I was hungry for more in a different way. And my own sort of entrepreneurial journey almost ended in a major burnout episode that I had about 4.5 years ago. I burned out really hard and kind of arrived at this moment in time when I had to ask myself, am I feeling this way because I'm not cut out for this? And, as an introvert, as a highly sensitive, easily overwhelmed human being, building businesses isn't for me. Or have I just not found the right person yet? Have I not found the right community that are teaching entrepreneurs how to build businesses in more sustainable ways? I chose to follow that path because I was not ready to surrender my ambition and kind of give up on my entrepreneurial ambitions. And that's what I've done. That's what I've been doing over the last, 4 or 5 years, is really focusing on how do I build highly profitable businesses without, drilling myself into the ground. And as I started to do that and figuring out how to do it well, organically, people wanted to work with me. Other business owners wanted me to teach them what I was doing. So it evolved in a really natural way. And as I did more and more business coaching, I realized, whoa, like this is my work on the planet. Like this, I feel even more passionate about business coaching than I had felt about doing therapy with my clients. So here I am now, like fully immersed in the business building world and feeling very committed to this mission of helping people become highly profitable and incredibly well rested.
I love that too. That's the thing. I think everyone's gonna be highly profitable and they think it's going to come with hustle right after it. And then when you say rested, I know you say a lot of things about how great naps are, and you and I share that. We have some shared values around naps. I don't get enough of them. I think I love that that's a business value. And I think that's a perfect way into your first tip. So, as I shared that Megan's got 3 great tips for us today. What's that first thing? If you're a coach or consultant, what do we need to do to build a burnout-proof practice?
So building a burnout-proof business starts with getting really clear on who you are and giving yourself permission to build a business that caters around your personality. And it does all start with branding. And it starts with branding when I'm working with my business coaching clients of just like, let's look at your business and let's look at what it looks like from the outside. Does it look like you? When I look at Annie's branding business, does it look like Annie? And if the answer is no, I can guarantee you're probably struggling with burnout and overwhelm more so than an entrepreneur who has given themselves permission to fully express who they are in their business. Because the more you show up as yourself, the less likely you are to feel pressured to show up in ways that don't align with your core needs as a human. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense. And I'm really glad that you've brought that up, because I think it's often this first tip has a lot to do with who's your ideal client. And that has a lot to do with it, but you've come on and said how much how valuable it is for your business to reflect who you are. And I think not only reflect who you are, but to add to what you're saying, like the incredible value you have to offer to your ideal clients being sort of on display in a comfortable way, something that makes you feel proud that you're telling your story. Like that, I often tell my clients that I'm not there to invent anything about them the way I think a lot of marketing agencies do. Branding agencies, they're like, you should do this, you should say that. I want to be a translator. I'm here to sort of translate your value into, client facing materials, because you're not meant to be, if you're an incredible therapist, you maybe aren't a great copywriter or graphic designer, and you don't have to be. That's where I love the permission. Obviously I wrote a book called Permission to Try. So I'm big on permission. I do think it starts with a lot of permission. Yeah.
Something you're saying here about the ideal client and the why, one of my favorite conversations to have with my business coaching clients is, what's your why? And when I ask that question, I am not asking in any way, shape, or form why you're doing the work that you're doing, why you're serving the people that you're serving, who your ideal client is. That's important. But for me, it comes later. The more important why is, why are you doing this? Why are you running your own business? What vision do you have for your life that you want this business to bring to life for you? Because if you don't know if you're not really clear on your own why as a human and as a person who is making this really hard decision to be a small business owner, because it's hard, it's not for the faint of heart. If you're not really clear on why you're doing this and how it's serving the broader vision you have for your life, you're going to have a much harder time making it through when things feel overwhelming, or when you do, smack face first into a wall of burnout, than someone who knows exactly why they're doing this. So I think that's all part of the same equation, as you're giving
Yeah.
yourself permission to let your personality take center stage in your
Yeah.
brand and your business, and you're getting really clear on who you are and why you're doing this, you are already laying a foundation that is going to protect you from so much chaos and hardship down the line.
Yeah. Well, and also fortify you. I think that that's a really good point about, why, not just why are you doing the work you're doing, but like, why is it a business? Because a lot of people can do this kind of work if you work for somebody else, right? You're either working for someone else's business, or you work in your own. But remembering kind of why you're doing this, because being a business owner, as I've become fond of saying, is having two jobs. It's the work you do, and then it's the work of running a business. And that's not for the faint of heart, as you said. It's really exciting, but just as exciting as it can be, it can also burn you out. And I've had seasons in my business like that too. And so I'm just really grateful that there are folks like you out there that are focusing on this, because especially in the era of, as we're, even though you might be finding this episode, hopefully we're way into the future, way past the pandemic. But if you're not, what an era to be building burnout proof businesses. And I think not only that just became so much more important, right? We've all realized what our breaking points may be. Right. So I love that. I love that you've brought on this other shade of it to come back a couple steps even farther. Branding, I think, comes down to a lot of decision making about who do you want to be and why. And that comes a lot from why do you want to get out of this? Because you can end up down the black hole of marketing. You can't even see straight, and you're up for so many webinars, you don't know what you're doing. But I think you've got this return to rest, the return to making some sense of all of this before you step out and make these other decisions. So I love that.
Absolutely.
So our first step is to create a business and a brand that is a real representation, a true permission-based representation of who we are. What is the next thing we should consider?
So the next thing is really an extension of getting clear about who you are and why you're doing this, which is to make sure that your business really aligns with your personal needs and boundaries. Right. So if we could just come to why I'm building this business, what is the vision that I have for my life? When you think about the vision that you have for your life, or what an ideal week would feel like for you, or where you want to be in 5 years or 20 years from now, usually the answer to those questions are rooted in our core values as people, and they're rooted in the way that we function most optimally. So what a lot of people do is they compartmentalize these two pieces, right? They have piece number one over here, which is, how I function and what life would look like if like everything were awesome. I would not take client appointments until 11. I would travel 6 months out of the year. I would only work 20 hours a week. We have this vision that we then tell ourselves is off limits because it's way too pie in the sky. And then we build a business that is structured in a way that is totally antithetical to all of those variables that we've just said would be, ideal for us. So we create a business where we see clients for 40 hours a week, and we start seeing people at 7 a.m. and we're only allowed to take 2 weeks off a year. And anytime these two images conflict, you've got a problem, and you're probably going to really hate yourself 2 months from now or 2 years from now. I don't know how long it's going to take for you to reach burnout, but you will reach burnout. And I guarantee you that this will be one of the core reasons why you're not working in a sustainable way. So permission granted, again, to be your own boss. Like, part of the reason why we start our own companies and run our own small businesses is so that no one can tell us what to do. Only we still tell ourselves to do shitty things. It's really backwards, but look, I could have a whole conversation about patriarchy and capitalism and why we make the decisions that we make to treat ourselves so horribly. If you really want to build a burnout-proof business, then the boundaries you have in your business need to be a perfect match for the way you want to live your ideal life. And if you do that, you will call your ideal client. So I just want to say, a lot of times people will say, but if I set my business up that way, my clients wouldn't be able to work with me. And I just say, no, your non-ideal clients would not be able to work with you. but you would be making space for your ideal clients to find you. And that is like just so beautiful when you reach that point where you're working the way you want to work, you're serving the clients you love serving. There's no burnout in that lifestyle choice.
I love that. I don't think there's enough discussion around business boundaries. It's something I'm working on in my second book. I know clearly we have a huge shared value here about how important they are. And to your point, like this is the reason we create a business, is that we can create it all, not just what we do, but how we do it is so incredibly important. And what I have found, a couple things. One is, I think two of the most profitable words in business are yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
And no is sometimes I'm unavailable. I only meet with clients from this time to this time, etc. I am somewhat known in my circles for taking the month of December off. I don't know if we've talked about this, but I call it Batch December. It started in 2016 because I got overwhelmed. I had no systems in my business, but my interest in my business exploded. And I said, I got to shut things down and get my head around it. That felt really scary to shut down for 4 whole weeks from client work.
Sure.
And I spent 160 hours consecutive time on my business, put down systems, put down boundaries, put down office hours. This is how I'm going to do it. Let's see what happens. And that was, years and years ago. And every year since then, I've taken a sabbatical. I take the entire month of December off. And you would think, well, no one's going to, people won't work with you. And what I have found is that people not only love it, they start saying, how do I do that? Teach me how to take Batch December, or don't get mad at Annie. She's not going to get my brand done until January because she's taking her sabbatical and she needs that to reset.
It's like right clients, when you take time off, because I take a lot of time off, and when you're working with the right clients, they actually are fierce supporters of you taking time off. Like I have before emailed clients when I've been off and have gotten responses back from them like, you're not supposed to be emailing me right now. What are you doing? You practice what you preach, go away. And I'm like, oh, this is great. That you're really, I mean, I think this is what I call the ripple effect, right? When you, especially as women, when as a woman, you model for other women, you don't have to be available all the time. You don't have to be productive all the time. You don't have to work all the time. It's really powerful to see how that shifts their relationship with themselves. And before you know it, you have created an entire community of people who are supporting a life that is anti-hustle and grind and overproductivity. And there's a lot of power in that, a lot of power that expands far beyond the walls of our small businesses.
It's been really eye-opening to me because I think I grew up with many of us did. Maybe you grew up this way, where it's like the American idea that like the harder you work, the more successful you are.
Yeah.
The more likely you are to burn out, the more money you make. I never hustled more when I made less. Every year that I take more and more time off. I work less and less, but I'm more, I think it's about smart.
Well, you got to be smart about it, but
right. It's strategy more than it's hard work, more than it's hours in your business, so much as it's how you spend those hours. How many hours you spend is not as important as the quality of what you're doing. Right. And so I've seen that pay off, and I don't know about you, but I find business boundaries really addicting. They're real scary at first, but the more I have them, the more I love what I do. It makes me a better partner to people. It inspires other people to have good boundaries. Like it's such a healthy thing to do. And it's something that feels really scary until you do it. And then you're like, oh, why did I do this?
Well, yes. And it never stops feeling scary. So I like to, so I'm going to put my therapist hat on here for a second. The expectation isn't that you don't feel fear, right? Because fear is just a signal that like you're doing something new and you need to pay attention, right? Fear is just an emotion that says, hey, pay attention. What's going on here? Just be mindful as you move through this transition. It doesn't mean stop. It means keep going with caution. And I think it's just so important that we learn to make friends with fear, that we can do the hard things like set boundaries in our business. And another thing, just as an extra bonus that I'll weave into the mix for your listeners, is the more you make these transformations in your business, the more you're actually healing yourself, right? Because so much of the funky stuff that we do in our business is rooted in our own traumas, in our own family of origin stories, in our own just junk that we carry with us, from childhood, adolescence into adulthood. And when you start transforming some of these dysfunctional patterns in your business, you are actually healing a lot of that stuff from way earlier in your life. So get a therapist. I actually am a firm believer that all business owners should be in therapy, because the work that you're doing in your business can be so evocative and so activating for all of the stuff that you've done in your life to date. But the space for healing and transformation is just, it's expansive. And there's no better like two birds, one stone scenario than like setting a boundary in your business, making more money than you've ever made before, and healing your past trauma. Like, yes, sign me up for that, please and thank you.
That's like the awesome triangle. That's like, we want to find ourselves in the awesome triangle. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that business owners need therapists, but I love that you said it. Yeah. And I think I joke with a lot of my friends, like I'm in my 30s and I say like, like in France, you get a nanny for a year when you have a baby. I think when you turn 30 in the United States, you should just be assigned a therapist. Like, just go ahead. You need it after your 20s, your teens, your childhood. We all need it. Oh, absolutely. Many of my friends were all in counseling. The people we think should be in counseling, we're in counseling to deal with how to manage our family.
That's right. If the people who really needed therapy went therapy, the rest of us wouldn't have to be in therapy, or at least that's what we'd like to tell ourselves.
Yeah. But I think I think you've made a really healthy suggestion there. And I love, again, coming back to like both a licensed therapist and a business coach, that sometimes it is like, we don't realize the limiting beliefs we're bringing into our business or our work with clients, that the more I just have found is, anecdotally, I have a counselor that I deal with personal and business issues, and it really helps me to process things and to not take things so personally, kind of work on some of that stuff. And again, you see the results of it. So if we can take something away from this episode, I just want to be kind of, both Maegan and I are just such firm believers in boundaries and burnout-proof and building up businesses that serve us well, because not only when it serves us well, we can serve our clients better. We can give better client experiences. We can take care of our families. It's like all wonderful. And we can kind of let go of the narrative that, success means staying up every night till midnight and replying to clients on the weekends and just really not liking what you do. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. So I love that. And I know you've got something really special along those lines to share with Branding with Friends folks. So what have you brought along that folks can sign up to get from you?
Yes, absolutely. So as a business coach, I really specialize in helping people who are in the what's next phase of business. So you're ready to take a big step forward. Maybe you've already taken that step forward and you've kind of made a mess of it, or things feel really overwhelming and you need some help fine tuning, or you're in that stage where you're ready for what's next and you don't know what what's next is, and you want to like figure that out and start moving forward in a way that feels sustainable and not too overwhelming. So I've just created a simple guide to outline the 4 business building mistakes that leave you burnout and broke if you're in the what's next phase. So this is just going to walk you through 4 really actionable steps that you can take to make sure your foundation is solid, so that you're stepping forward in a way that is sustainable and systemized. Check it out. I hope there will be something in there that is digestible and actionable for you right now at this phase in your business.
If anything, you just want to figure out how to take more naps, you have got to check out this guide, right?
Definitely. If you're a napper or a Netflix watcher, sometimes I'm a napper, sometimes I'm a midday Netflix watcher. Sometimes I'm just, like turn off the computer and stare at the wall. However you want to use your time, I just want to give you permission and strategies that you need to spend your time however you want to spend it.
I love it. It's so liberating. Well, and I'm so glad you're here. And this episode has gotten you thinking, especially about that first tip about, does your business really reflect your personality? Is it highlighting the things that are great about you that make you feel really confident? If you're not feeling like it does, or you're not sure, you can always set a free time to talk with me. Head to greateststorycreative.com. You can sign up for a 20-minute consult and we can talk privately together. So don't miss that big red button on greateststorycreative.com. And Maegan's got one more tip for you guys. So I hope that you've been learning a lot today. I know I have. I'm just gaining more of that permission to, I'm gonna go take a nap after this. That's what I need to keep my business. That's an investment in me and being a great business owner. So we've been talking about aligning a business to our personality, making sure it's really going to tell that elevated experience. And then we've got the second point of making sure that our business behind the scenes is really set up to have us thrive, right? Aligned to our values, aligned to our boundaries, the things that we need to be successful for our clients. What is that third thing that we really want to keep in mind?
Yeah. So the third thing is in alignment with what we've been talking about so far, but it's going a little bit deeper into how do I attract the right clients to work with? Because if you don't have the right clients coming in the door, it doesn't matter what else you do in your business, you're still going to burn out, right? Wrong fit clients will burn you out, even if all of your other systems are in order. So this tip is really about how do you create a brand and a business that attracts the right clients? And one great way to do that is by taking a stand about what you believe in. Now, this only works if you have first laid the foundation for your business and brand that is a reflection of your personality. So that's like step one is we want the world to see who we really are. Don't be boring. Don't be milquetoast. Don't be cookie cutter. Like, whatever phrase you want to use, don't be like that. We want you to be unapologetically you. And then we want you to take a step further and tell the world, what do you believe? What are your values? I think what we've seen a lot of in the last year are white people really taking a step forward and talking about their values around social justice, being anti-racist, supporting marginalized communities. And what a lot of people have found is that as they take as they take a stand, their audience gets smaller. Right? Their email list shrinks. They have like a mass exodus of unsubscribes, or they have clients who leave the practice or leave the business. Wow, there's nothing more beautiful to me than people who self-select out of your client pool in response to you saying who you are. I talk a lot about the patriarchy. I talk a lot about capitalism in my work as a business coach. That really turns some people off. I also talk about how I'm very obsessed with Outlander. That really turns some people off. And regardless of what it is, like I'm going to take a stand for what I love and what I believe in. And I'm going to trust that that is going to turn away. It's going to alienate people that I wouldn't want to work with anyways. And it is going to call to me like a honing beacon, like clients who are going to just be like, whoa, I'm so aligned with who you are as a human. You're doing the work that I need. You are offering the support that I need as a business owner. Here's my credit card number. Take all my money. Like those are the interactions that I want you to create
across the board.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that, again, that's the win-win, right? That's where you're making the money that you need to build a business that allows you to work not too much. And it allows you to show up as the best version of you, which is going to get your clients the best results. I mean, it's like an ecosystem that when it's all working together, everybody wins. You're highly profitable. You're well rested. It's a recipe for success, in my humble opinion. And this is what I'm taking a stand on. So if you're listening to this right now and you think I'm full of shit, no problem. We're never going to work together. And that's totally fine.
I love that. If you hear anything in that, I want you to hear courage and fearlessness to be who you are. Because the reality is like, yes, you can sort of dress things up with branding and marketing, but the minute somebody talks to you in a sales conversation, they're going to get a sense of who you are. And that's a really wonderful thing. We want more people to know who you are and what you stand for and what you believe in, because those are the connections you want to make. And to your point, it's, a lot of it is about not getting in the wrong match to begin with, not as much just for you, but for the person that you want to help.
For everyone involved.
I often say that bad clients aren't bad people.
No.
It's all about fit. It's like dating, right? So you're trying to date the right person. And when you date the wrong person, things don't go well for either of you. And you're not able to have them be happy. And, so, and so it's a lot of, you want to attract the right clients as much as you want to repel the wrong ones, and make sure that those people get to the folks that they need to work with, the people that are going to be better fits for them. Because, I went through this with like the political elections, and like, I am very, not happy with the 45th president. I want to say his name. And my dad taught me, we grew up in a family business, and he would really, say, don't share politically, don't share. And I felt very scared. I didn't do it for many years, but it was just too much for me.
Yeah.
And I have clients that don't align with me politically, and that's okay. But again, being who you are and unapologetically brought in the clients that really wanted to work with me, that felt comfortable with me, that we shared values. And there's nothing wrong with that either, right? So embracing who you are, and I think standing up for the things that you believe in, that's again part of why you have a business. Right? Like, I think you've done such a great job of underscoring that. So we learned so much today from you. We talked about aligning our personalities to the business. We need to have great boundaries. And then of course, taking a stand and not being afraid to be ourselves. Thank you so much, Maegan, for being here. I learned a ton from you today.
Awesome, Annie. Thanks for having me and for making space for this conversation. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And we hope that you guys enjoyed yet another episode of Branding with Friends. So many thanks to my very special guest, Maegan Megginson. Tune in next time when we're going to tackle another topic where branding and business meet. Until then, I'm Annie Franceschi of Greatest Story Creative. You can find all our past episodes, branding resources, and so much more on our website at greateststorycreative.com. Thanks so much for joining us.